Who is the best payment service provider for your business? Over the next 20 minutes, that is the question and answer that we are going to be looking at. And I'm going to be giving you some information and some tools to help you decide how to pick the best payment service provider. Now, what is a payment service provider? It's an all-encompassing term for those solution and service providers out there, from payment gateways through to merchant account providers and acquirers, payment processors, who offer your business the ability to take payments online or in store. So whatever your need, we're going to be looking at how do you decide who is the best service provider for you. And so let's jump straight into it. My name is Nick Duns from Shuttle, and we are the only payments marketplace out there that you can actually compare payment service providers and find the right one for your business. But let's take a look at what we have in this presentation. So there are more payment providers than ever. I don't know if you knew this, but who is the right one for your business? It's almost like another payment provider comes out every week. So how do you know whether you need them and whether you should switch from your existing provider to a new one? Are you set up for success? So we're going to look at some of those success factors. We're going to quickly look at what Shuttle does and how we actually help you find the right payment service provider. Are you stuck in the old world of payment processing, payment gateways, and what that might mean for you? And how do you shift to the new era of payments and do that quickly and effectively and make a decision on who is the best provider for you? And then what are those determining factors for the best PSP? And I'm going to give you some takeaways and information that you can walk out of this presentation with and put into practice and help keep you educated about the market and what's going on in this fast-paced world of payments. So are you set up for success? Now, as I said earlier, there are more payment service providers than ever, many of which you've never even heard of. Regular new entrants around the world, ranging from wallets, credit card processors, buy now, pay later methods. You would have heard and seen some of them entering the market. And end customers have an expectation for availability of payments, of course. They want convenience. They want the payment methods and payment services that they like using ready to use in your checkout or wherever that you need to take payment. And they want speed at checkout. So they want that convenience, but they also want the speed of checkout, whether that's e-commerce, invoice payments, or point of sale and in-store via terminals. So merchants, that's you guys. You're the guys that sell things. You should expect greater global coverage, improved conversion rates, reduced fraud numbers, and lower costs of doing business. Now, Shuttle helps merchants of all sizes who might be paying too much money, have had their balances frozen or locked up, find new payment service providers and new methods to actually increase the conversion of their sales, and we'll find you the right payment provider for your business. So the question I hope you can ask yourself in the next 20 minutes is, are you set up for success with your current payment stack? Have you got the right PSP? That's what we want you to ask and answer. So really quickly, just a little bit about Shuttle. So payments marketplace, first payments marketplace out there, the only market comparison tool on the market for free. You can go and compare payment service providers and see what features they offer, what prices they offer, and actually find the right one for you. And we have partnerships with leading payment service providers. So we actually do work with all of these different service providers, and therefore we can actually definitively say that we can offer you some great advice and options around the market. And then our platform is the gold standard for connecting software to payment service providers in the market. And you can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect, and you can ask me questions if that's helpful. But let's just go back. Let's take a step back 10 years and take a look what the industry was doing back then. So 10 years ago, payments were a commodity. What does that mean? Well, it meant effectively that payments were all the same, and they were kind of beginning to be everywhere. So everyone was a card processor, pretty much all the same except for PayPal. PayPal was a new entrant to the market with their PayPal wallet product. They all competed on price. So it was a race to the bottom, or the race to the bottom had begun. So cheaper processing fees. And then as a merchant, you had to go and actually integrate that payment provider where you required them. A lot of merchants were selling through their own website and building their own e-commerce sites to sell, and they had to go and integrate those different payment providers that they wanted. Platform choice, so that's the off-the-shelf platforms that you might be using. We've seen Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce really become prevalent in the market, but platform choice back then, 10 years ago, was really limited. And then there were a lot of disconnected systems, which ultimately added cost to doing business. And so if you were inefficient around how your systems were connected, that's going to add cost to doing business, whether that's reconciling payments in your accounting platform, if you even had an accounting platform, or whatever. So are you stuck in the past? That was 10 years ago. So what's happening now? Well, payments are actually becoming a differentiator. They're no longer a commodity. And that's because each payment service provider that now is out there in the market is looking for differentiation because there's so much competition. No longer can they go on this race to the bottom on price, on card processing fees. There's lots of different payment methods out there, new ones coming out every day, as we said at the start. So payment service providers, they are looking to provide convenience for both merchants and the end customer, make it easy for the end customer to pay. They are looking to increase conversion, and they might be doing that through fraud tools or lower friction checkout processes. When an end customer actually finds and prefers a payment method or a payment service provider, that actually creates retention, and they will return to your store to do business with you because it is easier. There's less friction at checkout, and therefore you get retained customers. Payments are becoming more and more embedded in platforms, not just integrated, but embedded. So you'll find many more payments features and payments in new places where you hadn't found them before. But still, the market is highly fragmented. More and more payment service providers, more connectivity, but also a lot more disconnectivity through that. So are you able to compete? Are you able to actually take hold of the future? But what does the future look like? And what should you be moving to in terms of your payment stack? Well, platforms, ultimately, the platforms that you use to sell your product, whether that's via invoicing or your online shop or whatever, they will dictate the availability of payment service providers. So platforms are really key, and that's a key question you're going to have to ask yourself. We'll come on to that later. Businesses will require more than one PSP for alternative payment methods. An alternative payment method might be something like PayPal. It could be a local payment method that's really specific to a country. So if you need to operate in a new market, you might need a new alternative payment method to actually sell into that market. We're seeing currency accounts, so multi-currency accounts. That's the ability to hold an amount or a currency in a particular currency. So for example, we're seeing UK providers have the ability to set up US currency accounts and therefore move money around the world a lot easier and a lot more cheaply than they have done previously. We're seeing new products and services come to market as well. We hope that we can see in the future more intelligent recommendations for customers and end customers about the kind of payment services that they should use. We don't want to see a full stack of payment options. Those end customers should be intelligently recommended the right payment services for them and the country they're in. We will see payments becoming more and more embedded in platforms. So we're beginning to see that now, but whether that might be payments in a chatbot or whatever, but those payments are becoming more seamlessly part of the platforms that they are being integrated into. And we should see connected, smarter systems. So the ability to reconcile your bank from a payment that happened on your e-commerce platform immediately. But we will also see, and my final point on the future is, we will see consolidation in the market. So we're already seeing a little bit of that today, where payment service providers are buying up one another through mergers and acquisitions. But we will no doubt see still a lot of choice in the market. So just a summary on the old versus the new world. The old world, a lot of cheap card processors. Typically merchants would have one cheap card processor, but And there's a lot of hidden fees that they don't even know that are there. So they might be paying gateway fees. They might be paying high foreign exchange fees. They might be paying opportunity cost in the fact that they can't actually convert more customers because they don't have the right alternative payment methods or buy now, pay later options for those customers. They're probably, if they have got in-store terminals, they probably got disconnected point of sales. And so dumb terminals that are not passing data between systems efficiently and updating SKUs, etc. They're probably using a payment service provider that provides a weak portal or dashboard. So there's no insight into what's going on with those transactions and those payments. And ultimately, the old world was very much lacking in features. So what's the new world look like? Well, you might have as a merchant multiple payment service providers. You'll certainly be having multiple payment methods available to you and your customers. The payment service provider will be an all-in-one solution where possible. So that's the gateway linked with the acquirer, linked with the multi-currency account, linked with the payout options. We'll see intelligent offers to end customers around what payment methods might be relevant for them to increase conversion rate for merchants. We're going to see connected point of sales to make everyone's life a lot easier. So maybe you take a payment in store, and then immediately you can set up a recurring payment to pay down the rest of that invoice, for example. Or if you buy a bigger item, let's say a piece of furniture, you want that process to happen automatically. Capture the card or payment method details in store, and then immediately set up those further payments automatically through the automated process. We'll see feature-rich systems, account management on demand, so you can actually speak to a payment service representative when you need to, but otherwise you are able to self-serve through the amazing features that payment service provider gives you through their dashboards, etc. So we created Shuttle to help you search, decide, and connect payment services. So we help you find the right payment service provider by looking at the type of business and industry that you are in. And we compare the market on all of these different facets. Where is your business? So that's really important because only certain regions have coverage from certain payment providers. We want to know, where are your customers? What payment method you need for you to be able to sell into your markets. And then, of course, we want to know, we will rank payment service providers on their third-party ratings from well-known third-party sites. And then we will deliver you a recommendation. So questions to ask yourself when you are looking for a new payment service provider: do you need more payment methods? Are you getting the customer service you require? Are you able to use the platforms that you want and therefore have the payments embedded and connected? Are you getting the best price considering FX, connectivity, and the total cost of ownership? That's the thing that you need to be thinking about when you're thinking about price, not just the card processing fees. Look at the bigger picture, the holistic picture. So customer service. This actually is the #1 reason that merchants approach us at Shuttle, because they are disgruntled or even downright having an urgent problem with their payment service provider. So think about, do you need an account manager, or are you primarily happy to interact with your payment service provider online through chat, through email, etc., or through their dashboards and their portals? And do you know their Trustpilot and G2 scores? How do they perform? Actually go and look that up and then see what other people have said about that payment service provider. Payment methods. So work out where you need to sell to. What is the right payment method for that market? What are the right payment methods for those demographics? So we know that millennials and Gen Z prefer different payment methods to cards. Do you need a combination of payment methods at checkout to actually increase your conversion opportunities? And it's actually very likely that that will be true, because you will need undoubtedly buy now, pay later methods today. So price. We've talked a little bit about price already. Consider the bigger picture when you're looking at price. Don't just go for the lowest card processing fees. A lot of card processors will charge you a lot of FX, foreign exchange fees. So take a look at the small print. So maybe your fees go up, but actually also do your conversion rates, because that new payment service provider that you're working with has a much better fraud tool or way of optimizing those processes to get more sales and get more conversions. When you're looking at pricing and the fees that you're going to pay, there are two types of pricing methods. There's what we call an interchange plus or an interchange plus plus method. This is where the payment service provider actually marks up the Visa, MasterCard, and Amex fees that that they pass on, and that's a great method if you are operating in different markets and you have a clear idea of your kind of usage in terms of cards. And then other payment service providers will operate a sort of a blended rate. So they'll just give you a flat rate like 1.4% or 2.9% plus 20p or 20 cents or something. And that'll be the same across every single transaction. But if you are doing a lot of local debit cards or local payment methods that are actually very cheap, that may not be the most cost-effective pricing plan for you. So go and question your payment service provider and see whether you are actually on the right scheme and payment fees. Custom pricing, every payment service provider will give you custom pricing, but you have to be processing more than £50,000 or sort of 50,000 US dollars to actually even begin negotiating with them. And of course, some payment service providers can go low on pricing because they are not just a part of that payment service mix, but they offer much more end-to-end in terms of their services. So they might be the acquirer right through to the gateway and actually operate a number of payment methods. And therefore, they can give you the cheapest rates. So when you are considering a payment service provider, think about those platforms that you need to use. So those software platforms that you actually want to take a payment in. It's an often overlooked until too late. We have stories of merchants who have signed a contract with a new payment service provider only to realize that the platform that they need that payment service in doesn't have that payment service provider connected, and they end up paying $100,000 to go and get that payment service provider connected to the platform. That will erode all of the savings that you've just made. So where could you take payments in your software? Are there more opportunities to actually payment enable that software? And if you're looking for new software, does it have the payments that you need, as I just said? Think about, are these systems connected to one another and therefore provide you efficiencies throughout your entire business? And so you're not having to do manual paperwork to reconcile or to take a payment over there. And then really think about, what is that payment experience in that platform, in that software platform? Is it good enough? Are there platforms where that payment experience is much, much better, not only for you, but for your end customer as well? Okay, so we know at Shuttle from our own data and working with a lot of platforms, the different payment services that are popular in different types of platforms. So I've just got a few examples here. In accounting, we know that PayPal and Stripe have a lot of penetration into those products. In e-commerce, again, quite a busy space for payments. Again, PayPal's the winner by quite a long shot. But there are lots of other payment service providers who have prevalence in that e-commerce market. In terms of ERP, PayPal again wins out, Stripe coming in second, and then a tail off. Inventory order management, still PayPal, very, very popular payment method for that type of product, but actually Auth.net comes in second, probably typically because Auth.net has been in the market longer than someone like Stripe, and actually typically can just supply either a payment gateway and the acquiring, and they can be quite flexible on rates. So coming into land, just some takeaways here. The level of fragmentation in the market is growing, as we mentioned earlier. So here's some thoughts around North America, Europe, and Asia, and the contrast in terms of the different types of payment methods that are happening in those markets. You can see Asia Pacific has a lot of wallet usage. So make sure if you're going into those markets, you have those alternative payment methods ready to go for those end customers. Below that, I've put some stats around the buy now, pay later market. Buy now, pay later is galvanizing and growing in markets, but specifically if you look at like Germany or even Australia, their acceptance and use of buy now, pay later is far greater than the general market. So 18% in Germany actually use buy now, pay later methods, typically PayPal credit actually. And then in the UK, Klarna is quite big as well. And as I mentioned earlier, buy now, pay later methods are typically used and great for converting millennials and Gen Z to buying your product. Just finally, what's happening in payments? There's a few things that are worth taking note of. Open banking, big thing in Europe. Open banking payments is a new payment method providing fast and cheap payments between banks, also very secure, utilizing people's mobile devices. We're seeing crypto come to market now, so people are spending and buying and receiving crypto payments. Still not quite hit the consumer, still not many payment gateways accepting crypto, but it's happening. We're even seeing new payment methods being developed, even around things like bartering. So you can barter goods and services one another, but never actually have a cash transaction or a digital money transaction. And then we're seeing a lot of payments happen in super apps. Super apps are things like Etsy, for example, or even other apps based out of China, where you have one app and it is like a marketplace for buyers and sellers. But they are doing a lot of volume. They're great channels to get into and actually offer your goods and services through those apps. But you may be restricted on the payment services that you can use in those apps. So what does success look like? Hopefully you have a better idea of what success looks like from a payment perspective. Do you know what your customers want? Can you educate your customers on new payment methods and therefore increase your conversion at checkout? And can you save cost and save time and improve experiences by creating efficient connected systems and working with the right payment service provider? Thank you very much. Go and check out our payments marketplace at shuttleglobal.com. My name is Nick Duns, and it's been great spending this time with you. I hope it's been a helpful session. Go and use our marketplace and find the right payment provider for you.